My brother mocked my disability, then needed my help to survive. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. It happened at our cousin's engagement party. The hall was buzzing with laughter, clinking glasses, and the faint scent of vanilla cake drifting from the dessert table. I was seated at the end of a long banquet table, doing my best to blend into the background, as I often did at family gatherings. My brother, Ethan, was holding court in the center of the room, all charm and charisma, soaking up attention like he was born for it. Then he decided I'd be his punchline. With a smirk, he launched into a story about our childhood, exaggerating every detail until it was practically fiction. But the part that stung, the part that froze my blood, was when he mimicked the way I walk. My limp has been part of me since I was 8, the result of an accident that nearly took my leg. Ethan exaggerated it cruelly, dragging one foot and hunching his shoulder like a bad cartoon. People laughed, some awkwardly, some genuinely. I felt the air leave my lungs. My hands curled into fists under the table. "Lighten up, it's just a joke," he said, catching my eye from across the room. Just a joke. That was always his defense. A joke when he forgot to wait for me and left me struggling behind. A joke when he told girls in high school I was half bionic. A joke when he convinced a teacher I faked pain to get out of gym class. But this time, the humiliation burned deeper. It wasn't just me and him. It was the whole family, his fiancée, her parents, strangers. And in that moment, I realized two things. Ethan would never respect me, and nobody would make him stop unless I did. Later that night, I overheard him bragging to his friends that he keeps me humble. Something inside me shifted. I didn't know how or when, but I swore to myself that one day, he'd regret underestimating me. I had no idea that day would come sooner than I thought, or that when it did, his life would be in my hands. After that night, I didn't confront Ethan directly. I knew it would be pointless. He'd just laugh it off or spin it, so I looked like the oversensitive one. Instead, I built walls. I stopped telling him anything about my life. I avoided family gatherings unless I absolutely had to be there. If I couldn't avoid them, I stayed quiet, observed, and kept my guard up. Ethan noticed the distance. At first, he mocked it. "What? Still mad about the party? You really need to grow thicker skin," he'd text, usually followed by a laughing emoji. I never replied. But over time, something shifted. He began fishing for information about me, my work, my friends, my hobbies. I could see the frustration when I kept my answers vague. He thrived on control, and the less he knew, the less power he had. That realization became my quiet victory. In those years, I worked on myself. I pushed harder in physical therapy, rebuilt my confidence, and surrounded myself with people who respected me. I took on challenges Ethan would have bet money I couldn't handle: hiking trails, public speaking, even self-defense classes. Every milestone was a silent middle finger to the brother who thought my worth was a punchline. Still, I couldn't shake the memory of that smirk at the party. It lingered, a shadow in the back of my mind. I didn't know why it haunted me so much, until one phone call changed everything. It was a late Tuesday evening when my phone rang. The caller ID read Mom. Her voice was frantic, broken between sobs. "It's Ethan," she said. "There's been an accident. He needs you." My heart skipped. For a moment, I thought it was a sick joke. But then she said something that froze me completely. "You're the only one who can get to him in time." I stood there in my kitchen, phone clutched so tightly my knuckles turned white, Mom's frantic voice still echoing in my ears. "What do you mean I'm the only one who can get to him?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and something I didn't want to admit: curiosity. She took a shaky breath. "His car went off the old highway into the ravine. Emergency crews can't reach him from the road. They'd have to rappel, and it'll take too long. But you know those trails. You're the only one who can get to him fast enough from the ridge." And that's when it hit me. The same trails I'd spent years conquering during my rehab. The ones Ethan had mocked me for even attempting. "That's impossible for you. You'll kill yourself," he'd once said with a laugh. Now, those same paths were his only lifeline. My mind spun. Memories of every insult, every smug smirk, every time he used my disability as a weapon came flooding back. And now fate had twisted the script. He was the one at the bottom. I was the one standing at the top. "I'll text you the coordinates," Mom pleaded. "Please, he doesn't have much time." I didn't answer right away. I just stared at the floor, my heart pounding so loudly it drowned out her words. This was the moment, the one you think about when people tell you karma always comes around. Except now, karma had my number, and it was asking for my help. Finally, I said the only thing that came to mind. Send me the location. But as I grabbed my gear, one thought kept creeping in. I wasn't sure if I was going there to save him, or to watch him learn exactly how it feels to be left helpless. The wind cut through my jacket as I stood at the trailhead, staring into the dark stretch of forest ahead. The path was steep, uneven, and littered with jagged rocks, the kind Ethan once said I'd never be able to navigate without breaking something else. Now, my boots crunched against that same gravel, every step echoing with the irony of the moment. I moved fast, my muscles remembering every twist and incline. Years ago, this climb would have been impossible. My leg would have buckled, my breath would have failed. But therapy, stubbornness, and the need to prove him wrong had changed all that. Every root I stepped over felt like another silent rebuttal to his years of cruelty. Halfway down, I paused, hearing a faint, panicked voice. My stomach tightened. It was him. Ethan. He was shouting, but it wasn't the confident, smug tone I'd grown up with. It was raw, desperate, broken. I couldn't see him yet, but the sound carried up from the ravine like a confession. Branches clawed at my sleeves as I pushed forward. The trail narrowed, the drop-off to my right plunging into blackness. I kept my eyes on the path, but his voice kept getting louder, slicing through the roar of the river below. Then I reached a ledge and saw him, barely. A flicker of movement in the shadows, tangled in brush, his face pale and bloodied. He was wedged against a rock, the current rushing dangerously close to his feet. "Help, please," he screamed, his voice cracking. For a moment, I just stood there, staring down at the man who'd made my life hell. And for the first time, I realized I had all the power. His eyes found mine instantly, wide, frantic, searching for mercy. For a second, we were kids again, standing in our parents' backyard. I could almost hear his voice mocking me, see the smirk curling at the corner of his mouth when I stumbled. Except now, there was no smirk, only fear. "Please, I can't move my leg," he gasped, clutching at the rock. The current surged just inches from his feet, tugging at his soaked jeans like greedy fingers. I crouched at the edge, the cold wind slapping my face. My heart pounded, but not from fear, from the rush of control. I had imagined this moment so many times, though never quite like this. The arrogant, unshakable Ethan reduced to begging. The same Ethan who once told a crowded room I'd be better off as a spectator in life. "You need help?" My voice was calm, almost casual. His head jerked up, desperate, as if trying to catch the thread of kindness I used to give so freely. "Yes, please, just help me up." His hands clawed at the slippery rock, his knuckles white. I studied him, my flashlight beam cutting through the dark and illuminating the raw fear in his expression. "Funny," I said slowly. "You never thought I could handle rough terrain." For a split second, he flinched. His lips parted, ready to spit out some excuse or lie, but the river roared louder, stealing his words. In that moment, I knew I had a choice, and he knew it too. The thing was, I wasn't ready to decide. Not yet. I didn't reach for him. Not yet. The river roared at our backs, its icy spray clinging to my face. But the real chill came from the look in his eyes, the dawning realization that I wasn't going to rush him like I used to. "Ethan," I said, my voice even. "Do you remember last Thanksgiving?" His brows furrowed, rain dripping from his hair. "What are you talking about?" You called me useless. In front of Grandma. Said I couldn't even carve a turkey without looking pathetic. Do you remember that?" He swallowed hard. I was joking." "No, you weren't." I cut him off. "You've been making jokes like that my whole life." And every time, I smiled and let it go. I leaned forward, gripping the slick edge of the rock. "But this is the first time you've ever needed me." He shifted, panic flickering. The water swelled against his trapped leg, and he winced. "What do you want? Money? An apology?" "Fine, I'm sorry." I tilted my head. "An apology? You don't even know what you're sorry for." "I don't need your words, Ethan. I need the truth. All of it." "What truth?" he snapped, desperation morphing into anger. "This isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," I said, my voice low but sharp. Tell me why you've always treated me like less. Tell me why you couldn't stand the thought of me being your equal. Tell me everything, or I walk away." The rage faded from his face, replaced by something heavier. His lips parted, but before he could speak, the river surged higher, and he gasped in pain. And that's when I realized he might actually tell me. The rain was relentless, soaking us both to the bone, but I barely felt it. My pulse was pounding in my ears, drowning out the roar of the river. Ethan's eyes darted between the swirling water and my face, as if he was deciding which one could swallow him faster. "I treated you like that," he began, his voice trembling, "because I was scared of you." I blinked. That wasn't the answer I expected. "Scared? Of me?" "Yes," he hissed, teeth chattering. "You don't even realize it, do you? Ever since we were kids, you never gave up. You kept trying, no matter how much harder it was for you. And people noticed. They liked you, respected you." He broke off with a grimace as another wave splashed against his trapped leg. "You what?" I pressed, leaning closer. "I hated it." He spat finally, shame flickering in his eyes. "I hated that you got pity and admiration while I got nothing. No one called me strong. No one clapped for me. So I made sure they saw you as weak." His voice cracked. It made me feel bigger. The words hit harder than I thought they would. I'd imagined him being cruel out of arrogance or ignorance, but envy? That was a wound I hadn't braced for. "You tore me down for years," I said slowly, "because you couldn't stand me standing tall." He didn't answer. The river surged again, and I realized the water was nearly at his waist. "Help me," he begged, voice breaking. "Please. You've made your point." But I wasn't done. Not yet. "Ethan," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos around us, "you've told me why. Now I want to know something else." His eyes widened, sensing what was coming. "What did you do last summer that you've been hiding from everyone?" The rain stung my face like needles, but my focus was locked on Ethan. His lips trembled, not from the cold this time, but from the weight of whatever he was holding back. "You don't want to know," he said, his voice low, swallowed by the rush of water. "I wouldn't be asking if I didn't," I shot back. "You think mocking me for years was cruel? Imagine what it feels like to hold a secret you can't bury." His eyes darted away, and that's when I knew. This wasn't just about him being embarrassed. This was about survival, not just here in the river, but in his life beyond it. "Last summer," his voice cracked. "I was supposed to be watching over Dad's construction accounts while he was in the hospital. I took money. Not much at first, but then—" He swallowed hard, water lapping higher. "I gambled it. All of it." My breath caught. That account had been for payroll, for the crew who'd worked through scorching heat to keep the family business alive. "How much?" I asked, my voice sharp. 30,000, he muttered. The number hit me like the current trying to drag us both under. Dad had nearly lost the business once before. Another financial hit like that could have destroyed everything. "You let Dad think the delays were the bank's fault," I said slowly, piecing together the half-lies and excuses from last year. "And you stood there at dinner, smirking at me over some dumb joke about my limp, while you were the real liability." He flinched like I'd struck him. "I'm sorry," he said, but his voice was desperate, not remorseful. The river's pull grew stronger, and his grip on the rock beside him slipped. "Please," he begged again, eyes wild. "I'll pay it back. Just don't let me die here." I stared at him, the weight of years of humiliation pressing against the possibility of watching karma take him the rest of the way. And for the first time, I wondered if saving him would feel more like justice, or like betrayal of myself. The roar of the river was deafening now, a constant reminder that time was running out. Ethan's fingers were turning white as they clung to the slick rock, his knuckles trembling under the strain. One more slip, and he'd be gone. I stood there, my boots half submerged, the icy water numbing my toes, and yet the fire in my chest burned hotter than ever. Years of ridicule replayed in my mind. Every smirk, every cruel comment, every time he'd turn my disability into a punchline. And now, here he was, begging. "I can't hold on much longer," he shouted, voice cracking. "Please." My hands twitched. The decent thing would be to pull him out, to push aside the anger and do what a sibling should. But a darker voice whispered inside me. "What has he ever done for you? When you needed him, where was he?" I crouched down, close enough to see the fear in his eyes. "You've always thought you were stronger than me," I said, my voice steady. "But look at you now. You need me to survive." His lip quivered, but he didn't deny it. And if I save you, I continued, what changes? Do you go back to mocking me next week? Pretending this never happened? His eyes widened, panic setting in. No, I swear. I'll never. The current surged, his body jolting violently against the rock. I grabbed his wrist, not to pull, just to hold, and felt his pulse hammering under my fingers. The power in that moment was intoxicating. I could end years of pain right here, or I could drag him out and force him to live with the debt of my mercy. I tightened my grip, then loosened it. Tell me one reason, I said coldly, why I shouldn't just let go. The answer he gave would seal his fate. The river roared, swallowing his voice as he tried to speak. I leaned closer, my grip still loose on his wrist. One reason, I repeated, each word deliberate. Give me one reason not to let go. For a moment, he just stared at me, chest heaving, teeth chattering. I thought he might say something pathetic, an apology, a plea for mercy. But instead, his eyes darted away, and I caught it, a flicker of guilt. I know something, he shouted over the rush of water. About Dad. That caught me off guard. What? He swallowed hard, knuckles scraping against the rock. You think he left because of work. But that's not why. I was there when it happened. I've never told anyone. My grip tightened instinctively, anger and curiosity tangling in my chest. Stop stalling. Tell me. His face twisted in pain as the current jerked him again. If I tell you now, you'll let me go. No, I snapped. If you don't tell me now, I will let you go. He hesitated, trembling, not just from the cold. His eyes locked on mine, desperate. Dad didn't leave. He was pushed, and I know who did it. For a heartbeat, I couldn't breathe. My mind spun. Was he lying? Manipulating me? Or had my entire family's story been a cover-up? Another surge of water slammed against him. His grip was slipping. I had seconds to decide. Drag him out and get the truth later, or keep pressing and risk watching him vanish under the current. I leaned in, voice low and lethal. Say the name. Right now. He opened his mouth, and then his fingers slipped from the rock. His scream was swallowed by the roar of the river. One moment his eyes were locked on mine, wide with terror. The next, he was gone. The splash was violent, almost like the water itself had been waiting to devour him. For a second, I just stood there, chest heaving, my brain screaming two words on repeat. The name. Then instinct overrode anger. I dove in. The water was an icy fist, punching the air from my lungs and dragging me into its chaos. I fought against the current, my muscles screaming as the rapids tried to pin me against jagged rocks. Through the blur of churning water, I caught flashes, his arm flailing, his face breaking the surface for just a second before disappearing again. My chest burned, panic clawing at me. If I didn't reach him now, I'd lose him, and with him, the truth about Dad. I pushed harder, fingers brushing the fabric of his soaked shirt. He thrashed, coughing, eyes wild. Help me. He gasped, water splashing into his mouth. Say it. I roared back, gripping his collar. The name. He shook his head, sputtering, half dragged under again. My choice was seconds away from being permanent. Either I pulled him out now or let the river carry both him and Dad's secret into oblivion. Somewhere deep down, I knew what I wanted. But in that moment, the river didn't care about justice or revenge. It only cared about who could hold on the longest. I locked my arm under his and kicked hard toward the bank, my mind still screaming, "Don't die before you tell me." When I finally dragged him onto the muddy shore, he collapsed, coughing violently. I knelt over him, water streaming from my hair, my voice low and lethal. "You owe me your life," I said, "and I'm collecting, right now." He coughed so hard his whole body shook, spitting out water and gasping like each breath was borrowed time. I sat there, soaked and shaking, watching him fight for air. "You're not walking away," I said, my voice steady despite my pounding heart. "I just pulled you out of the river. Now tell me who took Dad." He wiped his mouth, eyes darting away. You wouldn't understand." "Try me," I cut in sharply. For a moment, he looked like he might bolt, but his legs were still useless. He sagged back against the mud, trembling. "It wasn't some stranger," he said finally, his voice a rasp. "It was family." My stomach clenched. "What family?" His eyes lifted to mine, red and raw. "Uncle Mark." The world seemed to tilt. Uncle Mark, Dad's own brother, The man who always acted like the wise peacemaker, who helped organize the search, who gave me those pitying speeches about accepting loss. "You're lying," I whispered, but even as I said it, memories slammed into me. Mark steering me away from certain questions, Mark visiting Mom late at night, Mark's sudden wealth after Dad disappeared. He told me to keep quiet, my brother said, voice breaking. Said if I talked, we'd both be ruined. He paid for my apartment, my car. I thought I was protecting the family. Rage surged hot in my veins. You humiliated me for years, all while covering for him. He didn't answer. His silence was its own confession. I stood up, water dripping from my clothes into the mud. "You're going to help me take him down," I said coldly. "And if you don't, next time, I won't be pulling you out." He swallowed hard, his face pale as the truth settled between us like a loaded gun. The rain had slowed to a cold drizzle, but the storm between us was far from over. My brother sat slumped on the bank, shivering, not just from the cold, but from the weight of what he'd just confessed. "Get up," I said. "We're going to finish this." He glanced at me like he wasn't sure if I meant helping him stand or burying him in the mud. "You're serious? You want to go after him now?" "I've waited long enough," I snapped. "Dad's been gone for years. I've been treated like garbage. By you, by half the family, while Mark's been sitting on the truth. This ends tonight." His eyes darted to the tree line, like he was considering bolting, but I stepped closer. "You owe me," I said. "For every cruel joke, every time you laughed at me instead of defending me. You're going to be the reason he falls." He swallowed hard. "And if I don't?" I leaned in, lowering my voice until it was just a thread of sound. "Then everyone will know what you've been covering up. Your little allowance, the lies, all of it. I'll make sure your friends, your boss, hell, the whole town, hears it." The fight went out of him. He looked down at his mud-caked hands. "Fine. What's the plan?" A bitter smile tugged at my lips. "Simple. We make him think the past is coming back to haunt him. We feed him just enough truth to panic him, just enough to make him slip. And when he does, we'll be ready with proof." Somewhere deep inside, a flicker of doubt whispered that trusting my brother was like handing a match to an arsonist. But revenge has its own gravity. Once you're in its pull, it's hard to escape. And I wasn't planning on escaping. We started small. A note in Uncle Mark's mailbox with nothing but a date and the word remember. No signature, no explanation, just a whisper of the past clawing at the present. By the second week, I had my brother plant an old family photo on Mark's desk while he was out. One where Dad was smiling, arm around me, the kind of picture Mark wouldn't want resurfacing. This time, we added a message on the back. "It's not buried deep enough." He laughed it off when my brother casually mentioned it later, but I could see the tension in his jaw. He'd been untouchable for years, confident no one would ever connect the dots. But fear has a way of slipping through the cracks, even in the most polished armor. Then came the third strike, a USB drive in his mail slot, loaded with nothing but an audio file. My brother's voice, reading one of the lies Mark had told about that night, word for word. No context, just truth floating in digital space. That was when Mark's mask started to crumble. My brother called me after work, whispering so low I could barely hear him. He's jumpy. Locked his office door 3 times in one day. I think he knows someone's watching. Good, I said. We want him paranoid. We want him sloppy. But beneath my calm, something gnawed at me. My brother's tone had changed. The urgency in his voice wasn't just about the plan. It was about survival. And I had the sinking feeling he wasn't telling me everything. The final move wasn't supposed to be messy. It was meant to be clean, undeniable, the kind of truth you couldn't explain away. We had everything. Proof of Mark's lies, witness accounts, and even a paper trail he thought he'd erased. The plan was simple. My brother would lure him to the warehouse, the same one where our father's old belongings were stored, under the pretense of settling things. I would be there, hidden, ready to record every word when Mark finally cracked under pressure. But when I arrived, the air felt wrong. Too quiet. Too staged. I spotted my brother across the room, leaning against a crate. But his eyes weren't on me. They were on Mark, and there was something in them I'd never seen before. Not just fear. Guilt. It hit me like a punch. He'd made a deal. My own brother. He was going to trade me in for his own safety. Mark smirked the second he saw me. "You really thought you could outplay me? Your loyal brother told me everything." For a heartbeat, my stomach dropped. Then I saw it, my brother's trembling hand, the tiny recorder still in his grip. He was feeding Mark just enough rope to hang himself. Mark stepped closer, venom dripping from his voice. You've always been weak. Easy to break. Just like your father. Click. The recorder blinked red. Every damning word was being captured. My brother's betrayal had been the bait, and Mark had taken it whole. By the time the police cars lit up the night outside, Mark's face had drained of color. I looked at my brother. We're done here. And for the first time in years, I actually believed it.